right, let's jump over to our second couple of the week, Mark and Lindsey. This couple, they're just a mess. Let's be honest. Like, what are the redeeming qualities of this relationship? We just don't see any. I do think that Mark is a good person, and if he had been just matched with a decent human being, he'd probably be having a successful relationship. But that is not the case. All episode long. It's just issue after issue, and maybe we get to a good place with them, but their roller coaster always comes back down to earth. So we open with them kind of fighting, and it's just Lindsey repeatedly asking, the same thing over and over, asking Mark what he can do for her. And she'll just get on these little loops and just get in them. And he won't answer, he won't even get a chance to answer. She'll just keep cutting him off until the point where she gets mad. We've seen this all season long. And of course, it just comes over and over and over. And she's just repeating, Mark, would you like me to leave right now? Mark, would you like me to leave right now? Mark, would you like me to leave right now? She is a little kid. That's not how adults behave, in my experience anyways. Maybe different places, different expectations, but my experience is that's how little kids act. I'm not hitting you. I'm not hitting you. I'm not hitting you. I'm not hitting you. Stop touching yourself. All that stuff. That's little kid behavior. And she's coming up with all this stuff about how Mark isn't consistent. Mark isn't communicating, but never actually has examples. I think one time she had an example that was Mark made a whiteboard and then didn't stick to it. That's it. That's it. She just has these things firmly implanted in her head and refuses to back them up with anything. We did get to see Mark sit down with Pastor Cal, and it was like a deep dive therapy session. Out of everyone on this season, I didn't peg Mark as the person who needed the traumatic therapy session the most. I'd be putting his partner Lindsey higher on that list. I'd be putting Isaac higher on that list. I'd be putting Noy higher on that list. Not Mark, but Pastor Cal really just he went deep with Mark, and that all the stuff about Lindsey's meanness and argumentative nature, reminding Mark of his mother and how his mother and father fought, and also Mark being afraid of becoming his father, was way more invasive and deep than any other session we saw with any other expert, probably all season long, not just this episode. And Pastor Cal telling him, we had all that, and then Pastor Cal has the audacity to tell Mark that his expectations are going to screw him up. What are Mark's expectations? Mark's expectations are that his partner is going to show him some human basic decency. Not an outlandish expectation. No, that's very reasonable. That is extremely reasonable. Mark has set the bar and his expectations very low, and Lindsey is doing everything in her power to come in beneath those expectations. Unless there is some absolutely ridiculous things happening behind the scenes, I don't know, maybe somebody putting a load of laundry in the dryer that wasn't supposed to go in the dryer, then we're not getting the whole picture. It can't be, right? Because, Mark in Lindsey's eyes is this big bad guy, not the guy that we've seen just being verbally abused all season long, and it's just ridiculous. Like Lindsey complaining about consistency when she is an absolute roller coaster. And she's been the roller coaster all season long, and then the roller coaster is angry about not being on a straight track. Like Lindsey, your highs and lows have been extreme this season, and as an adult you should know that anger isn't a good thing, and it isn't a tool to get what you want. Like I don't know where this all came from, that getting mad and angry about things is good. Like, not saying don't get upset, don't express your emotions in bad situations, but like anger isn't a tool to improve your relationship. Like all those relationships that I think about in my past that were just like fueled by like anger and tempers and all that, like they're toxic relationships. They are absolutely toxic relationships. And it's not a, oh, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger type situation. Like the things that are happening on this show between Lindsey and Mark are hurtful, they're permanent, and they're long lasting. They are not the building blocks for a good relationship. Absolutely not. You know, they were put together for our entertainment. They were not put together because they were a good match. They were put together because the producers thought Lindsey was going to get them ratings. And I mean, we're here, we're talking about it, so I guess in a way they're right. You know, but like having just a little bit of love story sprinkled in on this show, like give us two couples. Like why couldn't we just have two good couples? Like look at this season. We have Isaac and Katina, terrible. Alyssa and Chris, like done on the second episode. Lindsey and Mark, like absolutely toxic relationship. And Noi and Steve, which is also atrocious. Like our only redeeming couple of any value this season is Jasmina and Michael. And they're at a point where they're most likely not even close to being able to say yes on decision day. Just ridiculous. Definitely a little side tangent there, but let's move on. Lindsey, you got a lot of issues, and you're gonna need a lot of help before you can have a relationship. You can absolutely get there. This show's not the place for you to go on that journey. It just absolutely isn't. You need to sit down with somebody, a professional, you know, potentially get some medication to help you control things, because her behavior is just so erratic, so inconsistent, using her words against her there, that like it's concerning as somebody watching this show. So we got to, after their meetings with the experts, and get back to the apartment. And did anybody else notice that Mark doesn't even trust when Lindsey gives him a piece of food? Like they had the chicken, and she thinks it's funny. This is a man, like she's betraying his trust in this moment, and like she thinks it's funny. Like I know it's a little tiny thing, but like if that's how low their trust is, like they're not going to make it. Lindsey wants to be the only person to hurt Mark and cause him pain. Like that just rings so true to me after watching the episode tonight. You know, doesn't want it to be his mom, doesn't want to be anybody else in his life. She wants to be the one delivering that pain and hurt to Mark, and just bizarre to me. And then on top of it, like we do all that stuff with the experts this episode, Lindsey's still just blaming Mark for her issues. You know, she's not taking responsibility or accountability for anything. She's still just blaming Mark. And we had that moment at the very end where, you know, Lindsey was pouring her heart out a little bit, and and just like desperately reaching out to Mark. And like she'd said some hurtful things about Mark in that little speech she gave, and Mark just leaning away, pulling back, giving her nothing. And I'm here for that, because it's 2 weeks till decision day. Like, they're not going to work. Like, he doesn't have to extend that hand if he doesn't want to. And like, he doesn't have to reciprocate those feelings. Like, even in that moment, like, Mark had just said that he's not going anywhere, and it's like the day later, Lindsey already doesn't believe him. So like, the roller coaster continues. The roller coaster will continue. I'm sure it's going to go off the rails next week, like absolutely off the rails. One little thing I want to point out before we get to the end of this episode, or this recap. Anybody notice that Mark and Lindsey drove Isaac and Katina to the volleyball thing? Like, that's the last couple I thought that would be carpooling. They're all living together. Like, why is it them hopping in for the carpool together? I think it's hilarious considering what their relationship was, especially at the start of the season. All right, that's it. Let's get out of here. We'll be discussing the other couples on different videos, but as always, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, we will see you later.